Nam mô Đức Bổn Sư Bụt Sát Gia Phù Ni. Con kính bạch sư ông, con kính thưa đại chúng.
Dear beloved Thầy, dear beloved community, today is Today is the day that we have many of our close friends, members of the order of interbeing. Once a month, we come to the monastery to practice with the brothers and the sisters at Deer Park Monastery, and it is also a condition. It just happened by chance that it's my wish to offer something to my friends on the path. I want to do something to transmit my experiences, the steps of one who has gone before on the path, to transmit to the younger ones. It's like in the poem, The Bridge Builder. You build a bridge for somebody who comes behind you, for those who come behind you. So today, I want to share from my own heart. Maybe it's not very poetic or fancy, my sharing. May not be, I may not use discourses, sutras taught by the Buddha, but it is something practical from my own experiences that I have learned from my own problems, from things that I have learned from myself, things that I have gone through, or things that I'm still going through, or that I have to confront in myself. I brought with me a branch with flowers we call pineapple sage. A sister planted them as to use as herbal tea. And one morning, I saw that there were like new branches with these beautiful red flowers and these tiny red flowers. But the hummingbirds would come and circle around them, and the long beak would penetrate these flowers and would take the honey. Of course, we cannot do that. And I remember somewhere there are birds, hummingbirds in the forest. There are kinds of flowers that are not very straight forward, but they curve, and yet the hummingbirds, through evolution, with time, they have to with evolution, instead of having straight beaks, then their beaks have to straight and then curve downward in order to take the honey, to suck the honey from the flowers. So it's an evolution of life. And also learn to see that in our modern time, there are different kinds of sicknesses we call like modern sickness. For example, stress, anxiety, or violence, social ills that we have, and they happen common, very common. There are young children just in middle school, and they already have to confront this stress, this violence. And so when I look at these hummingbirds and I reflect upon my own issues, I ask myself, oh, the Buddhism that Thai has taught us, our teacher taught us, it is applied Buddhism. And so how do I apply? How have I applied these practices into my daily life? Because out there in the world, people have also discovered that in addendum to the treatment for stress, anxiety, depression, etc., the doctors now, therapists now also use mindfulness in the treatment. And our teacher is the founder of mindfulness practice in our modern time. So I am his disciple, as well as all of you who sit here in this meditation, or all of you have practiced with us for a long time, or you just come to us, but we all want to use the practice in our daily life. Then each one of us, what do we do to apply our learning and the practice into our daily life? When I was young, I liked to read detective books. I liked to read books like by Sherlock Holmes to find out the causes. And so, because of that, I want to share with the community about the exploration, my own exploration on the path. I invite the Sangha to listen to the bell together, sit stably, beautifully, be still, come back to mindfulness of our breath, of our body. Dear beloved community, the Four Noble Truths that we have learned about. The first one is the awareness of suffering. The second one is causes of suffering. The third one is the cessation of suffering. And the fourth one is the way out of suffering. All of us, we have gone through certain suffering, physical illness, suffering caused by physical illness or by mental illness, by circumstances in our life. And so, the last few months, I've had some problems with my health. I'm not so young anymore, so I have to have dental care, and it cause a lot of pain. All this like operation and anesthetic injections and crowns and implant, etc. And it caused my health to deteriorate so much that sometimes when I look at myself in the mirror, I saw these lines of pain. So my face reflect all of that physical pain. And so after a few months, I went to see a doctor. I went to see Dr. Frieder. He is like a spiritual friend to us. And I have friendship with him, and I have trust in him, and he could understand the monastics, and we have this mutual understanding about our nature. So he said to me that my condition is coming from when you go through all these dental treatments, it triggers something in the brain, the issues from the past that at first when she told me that I had stress, and those are signs of anxiety. At first, I did not accept it. I thought to myself, I'm a practitioner. I breathe diligently. I cannot accept that I have anxiety or stress. Outwardly, I look okay. But no. If you are sick, you are sick. And whatever that is deep inside us, it's not there suddenly, but it's over time, over the years, months and years. And the doctor pointed to me, told me the word pain. He said, pain. And he said, quite humorously, he said, I'll write it on the board so you share this joy with me. Pain, P-A-I-N. And he explained, P means pay, attention inside now. Pay attention inside now. Pay attention inside now. That's what pain stands for. And it became a koan for me. Because whenever that there's pain in my body, and when I live in the monastery, when we have activities, we have certain relationships, there are things that happen that are unpleasant to me, that I'm not agreeing with. There are times when I'm in a position that I want to say or do something, but I have to put it aside. I know I should not say them. Those are the things that they also become certain kinds of pain, small and large. So it's not just the body, it's the mind. Then when those times happen, then I remember that pain, pay attention inside now. And I close down my six sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, body, and mind, so that I can come back to my breathing, and things to coming back to my breathing. So I have practiced that all these years, but to me, I acknowledge I have a problem. I'm having a problem right now. And so that made me think of the teachings of the Buddha on the 7 factors of enlightenment. So these 7 factors of enlightenment, there are mindfulness, there's investigation, diligence, joy, ease, concentration, and letting go. These are the 7 factors of enlightenment. And I see that when we practice mindfulness, we have mindfulness, then we can recognize what's in us in that particular moment, in this present moment, moment to moment, and I can recognize when pain arises. Am I covering it up, or am I neglecting it, or should I pay attention to that area that is experiencing pain? And I breathe, and I can relax with the out breath in order to embrace that pain. And I am not blaming or reproaching myself or my circumstance. These are the things that I have been practicing. With that mindfulness, I also go to the next step, which we call as investigation. Trạch Pháp, investigation. And when we investigate, we explore the causes and conditions that have brought about this illness, this disease. Then I don't blame myself. Why did I let myself be stressed out like this? Why did I allow myself to come to this state of anxiety? But I feel love for myself instead. Besides the medications, in a lifetime of a human being, for example, my own life, 60-some years have passed already. All these storms, all these accidents that took place in my life, all the traumas to my body, the car accidents, and all the things that I had to confront in my life. I had to be the head of the ship, trying to hold things together for my family. And so year after year, it created a person who's strong, can sacrifice, and yet also somebody who may suppress the pain, suppress whatever that is inside me in order to keep confronting what's out there. And so when I reflect upon myself and investigate into my own pain, to look at these frames of like in a movie in my life, then I feel a lot of love. It's not that you love like you pity yourself, but you love very deeply when you can understand the situation of a young girl, of a young woman who grows up and has to confront a whole system that nobody, this was in the communist era where nobody dared to say anything, and I had to speak up and I had to do certain things. So I just mentioned briefly the things that I had to face, so that I just speak briefly, but you can understand from 1975 to 1978. It was a new governance. The communists took over, and we were called as like the small business. We belong to the category as young business people, and so for those of us who fell into that category, I was not allowed to go to university, and I didn't want to bribe. So as a young woman, only 18, 19 years old, like a a young flower, like a young sheep. I had to go to the mountainous area in order to work. So in order to protect myself, I had to go through 3 years to try to protect my own body. It was very dangerous to a young woman to be up there and working with all these people. I love medicine, so I did not want to give up. I would be walking through forests and mountains. This mountain, Deer Park, is nothing. So from 4 o'clock in the morning, I would walking all alone through forest. And now my parents, they are have passed away. But when they were alive, I also did not share with them, because as Vietnamese people, we do not share anything. We just go through difficulties alone. And so I left that, and when I knew that when I decided to go to the mountainous area to be a nurse, then I did that so that my young siblings could go to school, so that they would not put on on their list that we were just business people. So I made that sacrifice. I wanted my young siblings to have a chance. So, but when I came back to the city and share with them what I had to go through, all these traumas that took, and those people in office, they were the age of my fathers and uncles. They did not believe my stories, and they did not want to believe me. And I said, you stick up for each other. You don't listen to me because you want to protect them, those people. And so I spoke up for myself. It helped me to overcome those situations. There are times when you have to hide your tears so that you can stand up and go forward. And later, when I came to the U.S. for just 2 years, then my husband passed away. And my son was only 11 years old, and I had to raise him. And I was only 37 years old. I was still very young. So I had to also close down the door so that I would not be, persuaded or tempted or anything. I wanted to go forward, to close all the doors so that I can protect myself and raise my own son. And so all these years that I had to confront and fight and protect myself and all that, so they all have accumulated. And so the body carries everything like that. So now that when I go through my old age and treatments, then it's like I cannot bear looking at myself in the mirror. And then one day, another friend came, and I saw her face was also looking all stressed and worn out like that. And I felt a lot of love for her. And I thought to myself, I'm so lucky to be a nun, to live in this beautiful, peaceful environment where I can practice day and night. And this happens to me, let alone my fellow practitioners who still live out there. Now you are in your 70s and 80s. You still have to take care of your husbands, your wives who are sick. You still have to take care of your grandchildren. You are affected by the ups and downs of life, of your children's and grandchildren's lives. And then you still have to take care of the financial situation. You still have to help take care of the monastery. So there are so many things that you have to take care of. If you don't have stress and you don't have anxiety, it will be a strange thing. And so through this investigation, as I reflect upon this whole lifetime that I have gone through, all these tears, and thanks to the suffering of the suffering in life, all these experiences that it has steeled me, has trained me so that I feel trained, steeled. I have this inner strength. I have faith. And it is this faith, this trust, and the merits. When I was a nurse, my heart, I just wanted to take care of people. I brought the clothes of the patients who live in the mountainous areas. They were very poor, uneducated. They didn't know anything about sanitation, so they had diarrhea. I would bring their clothes and wash their clothes in the streams, and it was very cold water. And these mountainous people, they would offer me gifts, like very simple gifts from their own land. And I saw that if we live in life and we only give our love, then it's so beautiful. And because of these waves of this life, I have been able to meet certain doctors that, because maybe when I practice and I take it for granted and I forget, and what he said to me, pain stands for pay attention inside now, and it helped me to come back to inside, to take care and to love myself. And today, when I am in front of you, I would like to invite you, let us begin to use our pain. Our pain, it is a new Dharma tool. It's a tool. It's a skillful means. My hand cannot raise high anymore. Even when doing chanting, I cannot keep my hands up in a lotus flower for a long time. It's just 5 minutes. Then I feel this numbness, tingling in my arms. Every time I experience that, and I come back and remind myself to pay attention inside now. So all of us, let us, when you have pain, put down everything just to come back and pay attention inside. And so I want to invite you, especially those who are about to be old and those who are already old, allow ourselves a chance, an opportunity to love ourselves. Nobody can love us. Nobody can love us as we can love ourselves. And if we do not love ourselves, we cannot demand others to love us. We cannot say, why doesn't he love me? Why doesn't she love me? That's very far-fetched. So I acknowledge that I don't know how to love myself yet. Then I ask myself, how many more years do I have? I have to learn to love myself more concretely. And concretely, then I would learn to apply mindfulness in my daily life, in my standing, walking, sitting down, lying down, in my eating, speaking. I can apply mindfulness. I can use investigation to discover the causes that have brought. This is because that is which causes and conditions that have brought about this condition that happened to me, to the sangha, to the friend who comes to the monastery. What has she gone through so that she's at this point right now? So we know that in the medical arena now, doctors use mindfulness to go hand in hand with the medical treatment. And we are like rich children who are spoiled and we don't appreciate what we have. So we are in the spiritual tradition. We are very rich. We need to learn to value our steps, our breath, so that we can help ourselves. And then from there, we apply diligence and we will continue to cultivate joy, ease, concentration, and letting go.
mấy hôm nay tu viện của chúng con ở
Recently,
mỗi góc có những sư cô từng nhóm với
in
nhau
our nunnery, there are different corners in
làm
the
những cái tác
nunnery.
phẩm
The sisters,
nghệ thuật
they would do artwork.
đủ loại hết
There are
từ
different
tôn
kinds of
trầm
artwork in order to
để làm
help
một viên gạch
raise funds. It's
viên
like
viên hồng để cho quý thầy
raise
có chỗ
a
ở đàng
brick
hoàng.
so that to help build the monks' residence. So we do artwork.
Viết cho con
Then
cái
my
cuốn
sister, she wrote this.
canvas này.
She wrote this on the canvas.
Be an observer,
Be an observer, not a victim. And I chose it because there are clouds on the sky. The clouds come and go. Sometimes they have this shape at this moment. The next moment, the clouds, the forms will change. And our feelings are like that in our daily life. Feelings, they are like the clouds. They come and then they go. They are floating out there and they float away. They are not always there. And so we learn, as a practitioner, we learn to use the eye of investigation of mindfulness so that we can see our own breathing. We had a guided meditation yesterday, and I was very happy that I could look at my breathing. I would like to ask the community, in our community, how many of you have felt this interest in watching your breathing? Please raise your hands so that I can see too. When you look at your breathing and you feel interested, you feel, you can look at your breathing. It's very interesting. In those moments, you don't demand them to do what you want them to do. Your breathing is yourself. And yet with the energy of mindfulness, the third eye is so deep you don't know where it is in your body, but you can use it to look at. You can look at the whole length of the breath, of the in-breath as it's going in, the out-breath as it's going out. It nourishes us a lot when we can look at it, like look at the breath. And that's what I practice. I remind myself, come back to the breath. Come back so that the breath can be my friend. So like our teacher said, each breath is healing. And it's like our teacher said, now on this, in November, our calendar, Plum Village calendar, that Thầy wrote the calligraphy, each step is healing. Each step is healing. We are fortunate that in the morning, when we walk from the nunnery to the meditation hall, sorry, I lack some teeth in my, some molars, so problems take place. So in the morning, when I walk to this meditation hall, it's a long distance. So thanks to the quiet, spacious space, I would just take very small steps, and that's when I pay attention inside now. My now, that is each step, one step at a time. There are steps that I see that because my spine is curved with scoliosis from the accidents that I did not take place. That I did not take care back then. That now my feet, when I walk, it's not stable. So my foot one is shorter than the other quite a bit. So how can I walk still in stability and there's balance and not one short foot and one long foot? And so one morning when I was hiking and when I walked and there was not good blood circulation, I could feel half of my body was there was spasm. There was this hardening on one side. And so I had to walk on one side of the road that is a little higher to keep my body in balance. So I pay attention to that. Pay attention to when my shoulder it's clamping down, that it causes knots in my shoulders. Have you ever paid attention to your shoulders, that you have carried a lot? It's not just to carry the physical burden, but the responsibilities, the worries, and then your shoulders literally become they tense up, they become burdened. And so do we use walking meditation to loosen our muscle, to loosen our shoulders, let them down or not? So do we feel the tension in our hands, the fist that we make unconsciously? So these small awarenesses of our body help us to be aware and also to release that tension, and it doesn't allow our mind to be so dispersed. And so for myself, when I'm in stress, instead of I'm running away or fighting, or then I become something that we call as I freeze, I numb. And so that my illness leads to anxiety. And the doctor said that there are things now that I become hypersensitive. I become hypersensitive to sounds, to light. One sister, a sister in my room, she left the alarm on, and that when it came on, and I listened with my ear. I felt with my whole body. It felt like a knife stabbing into my chest because my heart beat so fast, half a day. It's just one sound of the alarm, and yet it triggered this whole reaction, and I felt so tired. I couldn't do anything half a day. I can see that I have become so hypersensitive. It causes me to even be lazy of speaking, lazy of smiling, lazy of singing. It causes me to withdraw. And then I told my sister, I said, I feel like I'm a kid who has autism. I'm so hypersensitive to everything. But then I recognize the problems that I'm going through. And I also know that because my father had Parkinson and he died. And so now my young sister also has Parkinson. And I also question whether I will also have Parkinson or not if I don't take good care of myself. And that is why in my daily life I try. Well, it's not that I'm trying, but I am being very sincere, and I'm interested in coming back to take care of myself, to practice mindfulness more diligently, more sincerely. And so when I say this, I would like to invite you. Even in the monastery, we have many problems to confront. Let alone out there, you must have a lot more problems than us. So then, on your part, the uncles, aunties, the friends, when you put on the OI jacket, the short brown jacket, and you practice, you come to the monastery, are you hesitant in coming back to yourself? Are you hesitant in practicing wholeheartedly, in eating, in eating meditation? Now when I eat, I just want to sit alone by myself so that I don't have the sounds around me. And sometimes when I chew oatmeal, I look at it, and maybe because in my head I really trust this doctor who gave me the medicines, but now when I chew oatmeal, I really see the whole field, of the grains. So it's like golden in the sun, and I could see the farmers working hard in the field so that we can have this bowl of oatmeal to eat. And there are times when I feel I have to go to the restroom immediately, and then I think of the truck drivers. When they drive the UPS or FedEx, when they drive, they must be very happy because when they come to Deer Park, there's a public toilet so that they can use. Otherwise, they drive for hours. It's very difficult, and they have to hold it in. So when we go through difficulties and there's mindfulness, then we can feel this empathy, compassion for others. Then their pain, their sadness also soften your own heart because you feel that we are going through the same thing. And yet, there are times when I don't have that mindfulness, then I close myself down and I become hardened and dry, and I don't want to be in contact with anybody. And I can say that the first time when I get sick for a few months, I don't want to live in the Sangha anymore. I wanted to find another place. But we tease each other. We said, you can think all about it, but once you get to the gate of the monastery, you just want to turn around and come back. And we all have to go through these ups and downs in our life. I don't think that we as practitioners, we practice to attain some kind of enlightenment fruit. The truth is that what we can attain in our daily life, that is whether we can be happy or not. We can cross to the other shore in small ways or not. So one day I talked to a lay practitioner. She's also older than like me, and she said, she's worked very hard. She tried to help her children so that they grow up and they have a stable career. Every mother wants a safe harbor, peaceful harbor for their children to take refuge in. And so one day, when she went to a restaurant with her son and her daughter-in-law and her grandchildren and her son, her only son, he was very gallant. He got very polite. He got the food and he got more water for his wife, for his children, and yet he did not even look at his mother. He didn't get water for her, didn't get her the spoon or anything. But thanks to the fact that she was the practitioner, she didn't get upset. Yes, she felt a little sad inside, but she just smiled and she let it be and waited until, when it's the right time, when she saw that he was happy, she shared with him. She said, you know, son, I know I have two hands, but don't push me aside. When you love your wife and your children, you take care of them. Also practice to think of me. I say this not to plead something from you, but I say this so that you understand the subtlety in our interaction, so that you can cherish your own mother. I'm sharing this to the young people who have your parents and your mothers and fathers. Do make time for them. Find conditions, spaces, so that you pay a little more attention to your mother and father. Don't push them aside outside of your circle. Don't push them outside don't put them on the upper staircase amongst the old things, even though they don't do anything, and yet their whole lives, they have given their whole lives to you. Because sometimes I myself, I am reminded by my younger sisters, you are now you don't do anything because you're older. Don't do anything, and yet I feel I don't want to be an old thing to be left up there in the in the garage or the storage room. So it's like even if like a young man who embraced his mother, put a hand on his mother's shoulder and say, "Mom, you want some water? I get you some water." Don't think, "Oh, I can just get water for my wife." But my mother has her own two hands. She can get the water by herself. So when your mother is there with your wife and your children, also take a look at her and also show some kind gestures. You don't lose anything if you can hug her, because there was a time a young mother saw her son bringing his girlfriend, and because the son wanted to prove that he wanted to choose, he chose this young woman, and so he held her hand and walked in front of the mother with such determination and such affection to his girlfriend, and the mother walked behind, and she felt sad. But she had to be quiet. She had to swallow that because she knew that he had very strong idea. I share these small stories so that you see that in our daily life, many things happen that we have to confront and to be aware of. Sometimes we can be married to each other for many years, and you have children, and now you're older. The children have grown up, and then your husband wants to look at somebody else, and you have already grandchildren. But if he wants to look around, that's his part. But if we live with mindfulness, if we have investigation, how maybe we have contributed to it in small ways, but also his nature. But if he wants to look, but if you see, if we use our own depth, our own practice, we look into the reasons, and then we see that he cannot go out of this hand. It's like the monkey. We have the story. He's so old. Where can he go? So the best thing is to come back to take care of ourselves, to love ourselves. This is our chance. Don't be jealous. Don't hurt yourself. Don't be depressed and lie in bed and hurt. And as we get older, more we lie in bed and become so worn out. Then that's a reason for them to look around even more. So just take care of ourselves. Use that time to take care of ourselves. This is the chance that we can learn to love and take care of ourselves with love, with diligence, and that gives us the strength, inner strength to go through the situation. I've been sick, and thanks to the love of the Sangha, I continue to live in the Sangha. I don't have to leave the Sangha, or I don't have to come out to to activities when I need to rest. Now I feel better. I attend activities. And so when we live in a big Sangha like this, if I cannot do something, but somebody else will do it. So we will cover for each other. But out there, we may feel that we are responsible solely for that work. And so then we have to use the eye of investigation to see whether it's most important, if it's necessary that we have to hold on to everything, or can we let go of certain things in order to have more space and time for ourselves, so that we can have conditions to come back to ourselves and to practice and to take care of ourselves.
Con rất là mời đại chúng
I invite the Sangha, the community.
Con rất thú vị với cái phương pháp dạy của sư ông.
I love the way Thầy teaches about Tùy Thuận Trí, means the wisdom of adaptation. And I will Thầy used this image. It's like the Zora sword. Thầy taught that on the surface, on the surface of life, we call as like like we have the historical dimension. We see there are problems, there's suffering, things that we have to confront, and through our practice, mindfulness practice, we investigate, we discover, we explore, we look deeply so we can see more clearly. Day after day, we come back to our mindful breathing, we come back to our mindful steps, and we come back to the present moment, that from moment to moment, we have to cut it down to small moments. When I hold the pen like this, I know that in this moment, in this my hand is holding this marker, and the cap is put on so that it's not dry. The marker is not dry. And these are these tiny moments we have to put our mind there so that the mind doesn't float out there, so that it doesn't get overwhelmed. It's not distracted by all these random thoughts, and we will not be a passive victim. So we are the observer and not a victim. It sounds simple, but it's not simple. It's like if we do it 10 times and we are successful only 5 times or less, but we just keep practicing. Okay? And so when we live on this historical dimension, and with the practice of mindfulness, of investigation, we can feel that around us, there are many conditions for us to be happy. We feel that we have enough. We are lucky to have found the path of practice, that we have the path. Like Thầy said, now that I have the path, I'm no longer worried. So we have a very concrete practice, and we have the 5 mindfulness trainings so that they serve as the railroad track, so that the train doesn't fall off the track. So the 5 mindfulness trainings, the 14 mindfulness trainings, and the monks and nuns, we have many more trainings. So all this practice of mindfulness, it's very practical, it's applicable. We apply in our daily life without precepts. Out there, people talk about mindfulness, but sometimes it's just a word. It cannot carry the energy of a practitioner. The energy of mindfulness is only there when we practice precepts, concentration, and insight. And when we practice like that, we will have joy, ease, concentration. And when Thầy drew this image, this Z like a Zora sword, the depth, we can see that on this historical dimension, and down here is the ultimate dimension. Ultimate dimension. Or the up there we can also call the relative truth, and down here we can go to the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, in order to see the wisdom in letting go. Sometimes there are guided meditation sessions, and we say, breathing in, I smile with the inner child, with my inner child. Breathing out, I release the suffering that the child had to go through. Yeah, we can say to let go, but it's not easy. The word itself is easy, but can we release? Can we let go? That depends on our practice. It's a progress. It's a journey. It's like it builds up over the years. In order to get to letting go, we have to take refuge in the wisdom, the teaching of Duyên Sinh, mean co-dependent arising. Sorry, my joints are stiff, so my handwriting is not very nice. But we use the teaching on independent co-arising, the teaching on interbeing. This is because that is, this is in that, and the teaching on the middle way. And day after day, as we allow ourselves to practice coming back to our mindful breathing, be aware when we chew food slowly, gratefully, with awareness, then we can see the causes and conditions that have come together, what has come to be. We can see that interbeing. We hold this beautiful strawberry in our hand and we eat. It is a entire work of the people who planted the strawberry fields and the friends from Mexico. All these people, they work and they have to sit on the ground 10 hours, 12 hours in the scorching sun in order to harvest one strawberry at a time, because they lie on the ground. You cannot use a machine to harvest the strawberry. In order to harvest one strawberry at a time and to be transported and to be on your plate, there are so many conditions that have come together. We ask ourselves, am I empathetic to the sweat and the hard labor of these people? And there are those people, and they are sick, but because of their families, of their work, they still have to work in order to take care of their family. So these causes and conditions are infinite. And we look deeply, we will see all these causes and conditions. We will see the nature of interbeing. Then our views, our insights can be more open and more pleasant, and we don't put so much expectations and demands on others. In a retreat in Magnolia Grove Monastery, somebody asked our teacher, you teach about protecting the environment, protecting the earth. Why don't you eat organic food? Why do you eat the bananas? These bananas you put on the table, they are not organic, and they are this and that. So he said to Thầy, our teacher did not respond to the question right away. Thầy said, first of all, we are monastic practitioners. We want to protect the environment. We want to help the problems of pollution of the Mother Earth. We don't want to use up so much resources of the world, and so we become monastics in order to not contribute to that. And so that even though we don't eat organic bananas, but we have had days that we practice weekly. We have our no car day. We try to live a simple life, and so we don't ask for absolute 100% for everything, but we have the middle way. We look at things at a broad perspective. So we can ask ourselves, do I really need something? Do we need to hold on to our view or not? A mother can give a child a command. You can scold the child. Why don't you get me the water too? But then it causes like this, it can shatter the relationship. But you can wait until another time when it's more appropriate. My son, I also want your attention as well. It's not pleading for his attention, but to open a door for your son to be aware. Maybe your son never thought of it. And when the son can show some love and affection to his mother, his children will also learn from that. Because when I was 5 or 7 years old, when I went to visit my grandmother, and I saw my grandmother was like cleaning these kerosene lamps, the light bulbs, and she was sitting there. She put a little tiny towel and wiped these light bulbs, the kerosene lamp, and then and I saw her work using that. Now every time when I clean the kerosene lamp, the image of my grandmother comes back to me, of the things that my grandmother and my father did in a wholesome way. My father, he built a little like a temple in like a spiritual space, so that the patients can come and pray for their loved ones. It didn't happen like that. My father was the first that I was aware of, but thanks to his love, his thoughtfulness, that now he has children and grandchildren who become monks and nuns. So we learn that it helps us to see this way of interbeing, and we want to live in a wholesome, beautiful way. And that is what we leave behind for our children. And thanks to this nature of interdependent co-arising and interbeing and the middle way, we can connect all this so that we can touch the relative, the absolute truth through the relative truth. It's not from one side to the other side with our view, but bit by bit we can change the way we look at things. And that's when Thầy said we don't use our discriminative mind anymore, the mind of discrimination, mà we use the wisdom of adaptation. Tùy thuận means it depends and you flow in harmony. And this is the wisdom. You don't use the intellect anymore. When we have the wisdom, then everything becomes so much easier. How many times a day can we manifest this wisdom of adaptation, of harmony? Because if we cannot do it right away, we can practice again and again. We have our teacher who has opened the path to us. We have the Buddha. We have all these spiritual ancestors who will continue to guide us. There's a mother. Her only son had an accident, and he became handicapped, and he couldn't do anything. His mother, his father had to take care of his daily needs. It's take care of his body. And then one day, when that young man, he wanted to end his life, didn't want to cause more suffering to his mother, father. So it was done on his part, but the mother's heart is broken, the father's heart is broken. The wounds on our skin can heal, but the wounds in our heart, what kind We cannot use the band-aid.
Và chị em chúng con
And
biết được
when we learn
cái tai nạn đã xảy ra,
about this when it happened,
chúng con nhớ đến trái tim của người mẹ.
we think of the heart of the mother. We think of
Cái hình ảnh của cây sequoia.
the image of the sequoia.
Đi chơi trên vùng Bắc
One year, Deer Park Monastics went to the Sequoia National Park, and Sister Trúc Nghiêm painted the image of a sequoia.
Rất là nhiều người đã biết về cây sequoia.
Many people we know about the sequoia. It can be 2,000 years old, 3,000 years old, and they can still stand there. Although there have been many forest fires, many thunderstorms, they carry all these wounds in their body. Every mother carries these wounds. Every father carries these wounds, and yet the father and the mother still quietly will band-aid our own wounds in order to smile, in order to wipe our tears and be there for our children. And so now, even though the child is no longer there, but the mother, the father, when we are practitioners, we cannot just withdraw and just suffer and writhe in pain. We have to be stable and have to go on like this sequoia, burn to the core and still standing. It's still standing there, breathing with the earth and the sky. The roots have to go deeper, and the branches have to reach out to nourish ourselves so that our tree can still remain there, so that a part of our child is gone, and yet we still carry our child in our heart, so that what's there in our heart can still be alive, so that it can be healthier, our child doesn't have to suffer from this illness anymore, that our children can be more liberated. They may suffer outside, but they can heal inside of us through our practice. So when the mother can see this wisdom of adaptation, we don't make demands on our children. Why is my son not there for me anymore? Or my daughter is not there for me anymore? But the mother looks into the causes and conditions of the suffering, the pain of the child, and that cause the child to want to vanish, to disappear. Then the mother can will understand and say, okay, you leave so that you are light on your part, and I still have a few more years, whatever years I have left, I will practice for you. So the writing, this is from our teacher. The moon is neither full or not full. Sometimes we see the moon full, sometimes we see it's half, but it's always like that. So the loss of our child, of our children, is not entirely lost. We still continue to nourish our children inside of us, so that they can be liberated in us, so that they can be lighter and more peaceful in us. So that's our mother crossing to the other shore, to the shore of stability, of peace, of love, to the shore of understanding. And that crossing to the other shore helps us to see that now I'm not a victim of my pain, of my feelings anymore. But through my practice, I come back to myself. We come back to ourselves. We know how to love ourselves. We know how to take care of ourselves. Then we can let go of the pain. We can be liberated for for ourselves and also for our children in us. So that's the only work that we need to do in our daily life, whether we are in the monastery or out there. So when we are up here to share with you, we are not afraid to share our vulnerabilities or weaknesses, but we share deeply from our hearts whatever we go through, then we share honestly in that way. So learn to cross to the other shore in our daily life. Don't say, sure, come over here to my part, and we stand over here. When we stand on this side and we see there's a problem, that's already crossing to the other shore. Thank you for your listening, for being here.